So basically, I started playing for the professional club youth system when I was 11, and I was always in that selected group of players playing at a regional level and national level. It was really enjoyable. We managed to win a couple of national cups. That was the only time that club ever even made win those kind of competitions. Italian league was the league to watch. AC Milan, one of my favorite teams. Yugoslavian player Dan Savicevic was the player that I admired a lot. I liked to watch. And I signed for Hungarian first division team. Great environment, great city, great club, great coach, great teammates. We spent 2 weeks in Rotterdam. We went to Republic of Benin when we got our visas. My pregnant wife was still back home. You're talking about mindset, like we are going. I remember the moment we were on a plane, and if the best players are not playing against the best players and not competing in the best environment, you're not going to have a development.
Welcome back to another episode of the Heart of the Game podcast, brought to you by SciSports. I'm your host, Brian McDonough, and on this show, we'll talk to people who are front and center in the world of football, those behind the scenes, and those even working jobs that you may never knew existed, but all have one thing in common. They are at the heart of the game, and that's what matters. On this episode, we are being joined by HTX West director, Radojica Ristic. Radojica will join the show to talk about his youth career, his journey as a professional footballer, his coaching career, and all of his learnings in between. This is a really good one, guys. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Heart of the Game podcast. Let's get started. Let's kick off with the first question. So everyone has a soccer origin story, football origin story. You've done so much in your career. I'm really interested in your story. So take us back to your home country of Serbia. When did you first start playing the sport?
So, like back in our country, especially back in those days, it was the most popular sport in the country. I was 6. I started playing. Basically, my family, my dad has a soccer background also when it comes to coaching and playing. So it was more as a natural process, like, okay, you have to start doing some sports. There is no questions about other ones. Here you go. You're going to soccer. So very simple.
So yeah, and take us through that journey a little bit more, like through youth. At what point did you commit yourself to the sport? You obviously played professionally. We talk a little bit about that. So what did that look like? Was that always in the cards? Was that the decision you made early on, or was that just you just naturally progressing?
So, like back in those days, again, I'll go with that sentence. There was a lot of little soccer clubs or football schools, how you want to call it. It was basically a lot of professional clubs that have the youth system. They have from U19 to U11, U10, even U7, some of them. So you started going, and as we like to say, there was a natural selection. So naturally, after every fall or spring season, there are players who kept on playing, see themselves doing that, or there are players just, quitting or just getting not selected for the next phases. So basically, I didn't change a lot of clubs when I was younger. There was a small soccer, sorry, not a big, small soccer school started back then in our town, in our home city, next to the professional club that we had at Spartak Subotica. So they merged when I was 11. So basically, I started playing for the professional club youth system when I was 11, and I was always in that selected group of players playing at a regional level and national level. You didn't have a lot of local levels back then. Everything was pretty much across the region or the state or the country. So it was going well. Always being in that team that competes, always being in those top 16, top 18 players of the age group, competing with the other players. To be fair, like it was never a thought of, okay, what if you do not make it? I was fortunate enough to make it. I was fortunate enough to play and to even have some success as a youth player on the team level, of course, and that transition just in the professional world, very very simple, very straightforward. And now if I thought about it, really different than these days.
It's interesting. So in what time period is this, more or less? Is this the 90s we're talking?
We're talking about from 1994 to 2000. So basically those 6 years from U13 to U7 to U18.
Okay. And U11 is when you made that move to Spartak. So you kind of changed scenery there at that time.
Well, yeah, scenery was changed. It was the distance of 8 kilometers, 3 4 miles
Okay.
out, so
Yeah.
not a huge change of scenery, but it was a great improvement for the city, for the youth, for everybody, because it basically merged the one really good school that was established 1993, and then the already established professional club since 1945. So that was just a merger of the youth programs, youth systems, which created some success on a team level as they moved forward.
Now, walk us through those 6 years. So, when you were at Spartak, and I know I'm asking you to think back a little further. So, when you're thinking back to those 6 years, do you remember your mindset, kind of making that jump? You're on your own. It's your football journey. You have some ownership over that. Was the confidence there? Were there ever times where you're kind of questioning your own abilities, or is that something that never was the case with you?
Well, I do not want to sound like maybe arrogant or things like that, but it wasn't the case in the youth world. We had support from our parents, but it was never that, how do you call it now, a helicopter parent, that will just overflow over you. But
Yeah.
it was basically, when is your session? 8 a.m. Here you go. You have the public transportation. I have to work. I can't make it. Go 13, 14, 15. For those 6 years, it was enjoyable. That's the part I remember a lot. It was really enjoyable. We managed to win a couple of national cups. So that was the only time that club ever even made win those kind of competitions. There's a lot of international events around the country, around the area of Europe. Not unfortunately not having an opportunity to showcase ourselves in the western part of the world and Europe, but definitely in Hungary, Austria, and that part of the Europe. So it was really enjoyable. The confidence was there. The coaches were really supportive. The coaching was, now I can't give you the details, but highly affected, as it resulted with a lot of players playing professionally after. So one positive memory, one memory that stayed with me. Now I'm 42. This was almost 30 years ago, and you still remember some of the details that took you through that journey, because from the U13 to the U19s, I was fortunate enough not to have any injuries, to play basically all the time, majority of the games. So, again, a lot of things that I have to thank to the coaches, to the parents, and to the just stars aligning, and having being lucky to be in that environment, and privileged enough.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure, in a different time period, different country, different situation. I mean, was there a lot of ownership over like your nutrition day to day? Were you kind of just eating what you ate? Was there a lot of that going on, or was it more just playing football?
It was playing football.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the trainings, the practices, the sessions were, of course, professionally planned. It was a different approach. The main part was the physical preparation. So we spent all our pre-seasons in, regardless of the ages, running, jumping, doing push-ups and pull-ups and all the strength exercises. The talent was there, the potential was there, with the group, with the players, with everybody else. So it was a different approach. It worked then. I do not think it works now. But back in those days, nutrition and those things, data, videos was exclusivity for especially for the youth system in Serbia in that time of the years. Because when you say 90s and Serbia, it will give you an assumption of really struggle times for the people back in those days. Again, fortunate enough not to feel it, not to sense it in a way where I had, at least to say, normal childhood.
I'm curious too. We didn't talk about this. So, what position did you play? If you had to say the type of player you are, I'm not sure. You still play today in the adult leagues?
Well, I do not. I always get
Yeah.
fights, so I try to avoid
Okay.
it.
So maybe that gives it away a little bit. So what type of player were you? Obviously, you've impacted a lot of youth players, and I'm sure they all know of you. So maybe they see you kicking around a little bit at practice. But I'm curious about
I
that.
usually played number three, like a left back or full back, or number six, like holding midfielder. Those were two of my common positions. Later in the pro environment, I played mostly three. Uh, I could run a lot. I don't want to. Again, it's all really subjective. So,
Yeah.
uh, you know, work rate was there. pretty reliable all the time for the coaches, and I think that was the biggest part of why I played so much games, and I had so much playing time in the youth system. Like right on task, basically. Give me a task. I will make sure it's done. Not the most creative player on the field, but definitely one of the workhorses, if you want me to say like that. I was a captain in the youth system also. I had that leadership role even then. A bit of spark, not all the time, but we had some really good players that were around us. But that was me basically. Workhorse, reliable left-footed player, which was really not so common, really rare. Took advantage of that. I would like to say that, but maybe I could have taken it even more when I was playing professional, but that's a different story.
Well, we'll get to the professional side too, because I have a couple questions about that. But during those youth years, take me back to the 90s, talk a little bit about Serbia and the country itself. But what was your inspiration? Like, what football league were you watching back then as a kid? What players were you watching? Who was your inspiration? Who was your favorite player? What did that look like for you?
It was even Yugoslavia back then, so we had
It was Yugoslavia, yes.
Yugoslavia,
That's true.
Serbia, Montenegro, and Serbia.
That's true, yeah.
Calcio Italian league was the league to watch.
Mhm.
The AC Milan was one of my favorite teams. Yugoslavian player Dan Savicevic was the player that I admired a lot. I like to watch, and left-footed player, really creative. He's a president of the Montenegro Federation at the moment. AC Milan, Juve, the Calcio was number one back in those days. The best players were there. Zinedine Zidane was there. Of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona were always there, but Primera and Premier League were not so big at the time. Not as Calcio. Calcio was. I will always remember the Sunday 3 p.m. games where you don't have a game as a youth. You are watching those ones. If you miss it, there is no on YouTube. There is no highlights.
Yeah.
You have to wait Monday evening to have like a little highlight recap if you had a TV channel. So there was a lot of preconditions you have to have in order to watch the games. But Calcio was number one. Dan Savicevic as a player was number one for me. AC Milan, the team. Again, I have to emphasize outside the Red Star, of course, from Serbia. But yeah, the Italian league was the league to watch back in those days.
You still watching the Italian league today? Are you still an AC Milan supporter?
A supporter or not, I like to watch every league. I watch a lot of games now. There is accessibility to the games is really different compared to those days. And having my role and what I do at the moment, I feel like I have an obligation to stay on top of those modern trends and then watch the game and try to transfer it as much as I can for my current club and players.
So early on, the love for the sport's obviously there. You played at an extremely high level, and then you're through the youth leagues, those 6 years. You signed your first professional contract. What was that like? What was the mindset going into that? Did you realize you were about to set off on a pretty substantial professional career, or what were you thinking at that time?
Well, it was different. And when you say professional, for example, comparing it to nowadays, you see the professional level, MLS level in the USL Championship, those kind of levels. Over there, the professional level is also third division, which is my first contract when I was 16. It basically was a loan. So I do not know. I never had that kind of feeling. Like I never had a feeling, okay, this is my time. Like maybe it wasn't good, but again, it was just organic, It was organic. Okay, I cannot make the first team at the moment because they are top division. So I will go to a third division loan for the loan, and play there. I played there for 2 years. It was a phenomenal experience. I don't know. I think that the mindset of the players back in those days was not so much about, and I don't want to sound rough, but about the fame and about how these days come with the social media and the money and everything. I have a feeling in those days it was different. As I mentioned, the first contract with the third division club, then the second contract with the first division club, the second division clubs. I never felt that kind of, and maybe that's why I haven't did a lot as a professional player. I never felt that kind of drive. Okay, now you have your opportunity. Now you're there. Now you're on the stage. Like again, I felt, okay, this is normal. This is what should happen. It's organically. So just keep doing what you were doing, and then we'll see how it ends.
But maybe that's also what makes you effective today in your current job. Just kind of keep doing what you're doing, stick to the plan, not overreacting, right? Just kind of staying to the course, would you say?
Yeah, I agree. Having a side of that, I'm really emotional when it comes to different things, but yeah, I agree. That statement.
Now, you mentioned a little bit that you traveled quite a bit, won some titles. So let's talk a little bit about traveling during your football career. I always find that interesting, mostly around Europe. You even had to relocate at some point. What was that like for you? Did you give that much thought, or kind of like all else, you were just ready to play football and going one step at a time?
Yes, I have relocated a couple of times, only Hungary, not more than that. We traveled with some events for the rest of the parts of the Euro, but again, if you ask me now, it was never like planned, never like rigid. More go with the flow. Again, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's how it was. And that's, I see that as also I'm accountable for that part, not setting those goals as I could have set. Maybe it was just, okay, let's do it. I was, again, I didn't play as much in the professional level as I was playing in the youth level, especially after couple of my injuries. It just wasn't. I always want to say it wasn't for me.
Okay.
How does it sound? I don't know, but it wasn't. I feel like there was never a consistency. There was never like more than 6 months of playing time. Then I reduce the playing time. I go on the bench. I get injured again. And that was basically from when I turned 20 to 26. So it was never like, and the only person to blame for that is myself, nobody else, of course. So it's, maybe I didn't pick up the seriousness of the goal of the task and stick to it. Maybe it was me, just still playing, and hoping something will resolve by itself, not by myself. So there was never a true, how to say it, what is the word? I don't want to say a spark, but there was never a moment where I would say, okay, now this is it. I signed for Hungarian first division team. Great environment, great city, great club, great coach, great teammates. For me, it was like, okay, let's do it, and then let's make sure, okay, we get it done, and then move on. So,
Yeah, I mean, also, go ahead. Sorry.
I should brag with, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah, but also, like, there's nothing wrong with that. In hindsight's 2020. You're 16 years older now. You're thinking back to when you were a footballer. And it's always different now, right? Asking the questions, and you're in the moment. You're making that move, and you're right. You're a product of your environment too, of course, right? So, to me, as an outsider looking in, it looks like you had a successful career. You still have a successful career. You've done a lot with your football journey, and I think there's ebbs and flows to everything, right? So that's.
I would say I took advantage of it. I wouldn't say it was successful because I don't preach to my players that my career was successful.
Okay.
I don't preach that it was a failure, but I preach it shouldn't be the example, not because of things that I have done, nothing like that. It's just because of its. For example, if I played college in that time, during that time of the year, then I would say, okay, that's a success.
Okay.
States that I had an offer, I choose not to do it. If I done that, if I'm done and played collegiate soccer, played D1, that I had the opportunity, have my degree and diploma after I'm done, then I would say it was success. With this as a playing career, I would say it was an effort. It was a learning experience that I feel I learned from, and I transferred it later as a coach, as a director, or different roles that I used to have in the last 15 years now.
Yeah, I think when you give kind of that's interesting to me, because a lot of people would say if you're a success if you become a professional player, right? Once you become a professional player, that's what you're setting out to do. But to you, looking back, maybe going to college, taking that offer, that education and everything would be in your mind more of a success. So I think it depends where you're coming from, what you're thinking, what you claim is a success, right? So let me ask you this then. So eventually you do retire. You retire from your professional football career, And what was your mindset at that point? So where were you at that point? What country were you in? What was your age? What was next? What was going through your mind? Do you remember? Can you recall that
Well,
journey?
I feel every time you ask me about my mindset, I will give you a disappointed answer.
No, because it's not disappointing because it's because it's the way you were thinking at the time, and that's
That was my journey. So everybody has different journeys. So I was 26, as I mentioned, my playing career as a professional player wasn't consistent. So after I had 6 surgeries on both knees, and again, that's an excuse whatsoever. That just the way it happened. Um, Not playing, and I remember it was November 2009. I just had enough. Like why am I doing this? Like I can't because you are pulling your friends, you're pulling your family, so everybody's going through that struggle, and you're 26, you're hoping for something for what? It's not the money that you're earning like you're playing nowadays in Saudi Arabia or China. Where you can earn some money. It's just So I decided to stop playing, and again, I was playing for the same club I started as a youth player. I finished playing there. Uh, and again, just natural, organic move was I approached the sporting director. I told him, look, I want to start coaching. I have my C license. When you ask me now, there is a big thing now about why we do things. If you ask me back then why, I would say, what? Because it's supposed to be like that. Why are you asking me why? So I just started coaching back then. To be fair, I wanted to see if I'm going to like it or not. So my first job was, he was like, okay, you want to work? I said, yeah. What license do you have? I said you have a C license. I did that when I was a player. I have also applied for my B, which I did it like 2010, like just a year after. So he was like, okay, we do not have U7s. I think back in the days it was 03, 02 generation. So we need 20 players there. Do that, and then you will have your salary. So that was my first role, and it was okay. Let's give it a try. Let's see how it goes, and then, you know, it's a different story. However, it ended up, but that was the first moment, and my mindset was, let's just do it and see if I would like it or not.
Which is a good mindset, right? Like just go into it. I think it is. Go into it, see if you're successful or see if you enjoy it, and then where does it go from here? I know you spent some time in the Middle East coaching as well. Was that right away? Was that a couple years later?
It wasn't Middle East. It was Africa, West Africa.
West Africa. Okay.
So when I started coaching, as I told you, that was my first gig for a couple of years. I got my UFIB license a year after, and again, I always want to say I was privileged and fortunate to have my coaching career progressing from year to year. I was getting more important roles in the club in only span of 4 years. I think it was actually 5 years. I went through coaching the foundation. I ended up coaching the reserve team of the first team, which was competing in the third division of the country, and I was coaching U18 and U19 boys that were competing on a national level in Serbia. So that's where, again, I like to say, my work rate was never a question. I think that was my reward. I got my UFA license in 2013. So after that, again, progression was there. Things were going really well from a coaching perspective, from my career. But again, going back in those days, a lot of uncertainty in the country, in the club, in the city. Even though I enjoyed it massively, I didn't even care about the salary back in those days. I was living with my current wife. Then like she had 2 jobs. Like that wasn't a word. Like, okay, money. No, we are playing Partizan, Red Star Belgrade. We are playing for those games. Or we have players from the national team. So that was my drive. And then, lucky enough, she became pregnant. 2000. She'll kill me if she listens to this. I can't recall. 2014 August or September, and that was my cue that, okay, even though I love it, somebody has to pay the bills, and you have to take care of those things. And that was the moment when I have started looking for an international job, for a job where I can provide for my family. So LinkedIn started back. I think some of those years I can't recall
Right
exactly,
around there, yeah, yeah.
something around that. And then by 2015 February, or actually January, sorry, there was a, I think it's called Football Network. Luis Figo used to
Okay,
own this
yeah,
website. So I found the job ad over there, applied. I got the response, the only one I got out of hundreds of those. They called me. The offer was coaching the first team in the Republic of Benin in West Africa and running their the academy programming. Didn't know what to expect. Didn't know how it's going to look. The agents and the agency, they were all from Rotterdam, from Holland. Uh, like
Dutch connection, yeah, yeah,
Holland, yeah. So I had an assistant coach who used to say, "Okay, nobody will do this besides us because nobody's crazy enough to do that." So we went for a job interview. We passed it. I'm not sure even if they tried to learn something of us. They were like, "Okay, who will go there?" So we went. We spent 2 weeks in Rotterdam. We went to Republic of Benin when we got our visas. My pregnant wife was still back home, so that was the, again, you're talking about mindset. Like, we are going. I remember the moment we were on a plane, and you know how you had those screens now when they show your flight, and
yeah,
that way. I remember back then it was Air France from Paris to Cotonou, Benin. You go, you didn't have it in every seat. You had a big screen in the middle of the next to the restrooms, in the middle of the plane. So we are walking down the plane, stretching our legs. We never been on the flight more than an hour. This was a 6-hour flight. So we're looking at the screen, and you can see like the plane going south, from Paris to Cotonou, which is Republic of Benin, basically back in those days. And we're looking like, okay, where are we going? Do we even know where we're going? Like it's downside. The plane is facing downside. Hopefully, like we'll get there. You get there in the country that you don't know anything about, besides besides what you learn in the last couple of weeks. So you start a new journey in the totally different country, totally different culture, different expectations, different habits, different everything. So that was a funny 6 months, at least, to say where I gained, though, where I will be honest, I gained a lot of valuable experience from those 6 months.
French speaking country, isn't it?
French speaking
Okay.
country,
Do you speak French at all or no?
zero.
No.
Now,
Okay.
the owners and directors were from Lagos, Nigeria, which is, again,
Okay.
a speaking country. So everybody was speaking in English besides players. So I don't want to even talk about those challenges when you have a translator who doesn't even speak English. So you tell him one thing, he translates the other thing. So it was a
Wow.
interesting 6 months. Again, a lot of good players, though. Good players, good games. Soccer side will be great. I like to call it the honeymoon period for 6 months. Phenomenal.
Great.
We went back. We went back for a break. We came back, and then, from political reasons, everything went downfall. So that's when I was starting searching for something else.
Okay. But in the 6 months you were there, you said you learned a lot, had some good experiences. What would you say? What's your one takeaway from your time there in
Well,
Benin?
we are fortunate enough to live in the world we are living now.
Yeah.
Things that you see over there, you experience over there, and I do not want to sound, underestimating, but it's a different lifestyle. When you have a meal, you have a plate there. That's your peak of the day,
Yeah.
if you have it. So the life will teach you there some new challenges that are more important than you thought you had. Even when you're living in Serbia and Europe, you still, you're complaining and moaning about every little thing, but then you learn not to complain and moan about things that are not important. And that was the most valuable things. You have players, their only goal is to go from there. They want to go
Mhm.
to Europe. They don't care about where, what, how. They just want to get out of there. So a lot of challenges, and then you have the coaches who are from there, who are looking at you as, okay, you came here, we know you're earning good money for their standards, but you took that bread away from me, so you have to
I see. Okay.
Different challenge. So it was that was the most it's a life experience. It's a life learning experience that taught me to value things more. Just put it like that.
Yeah, very cool. That's different perspective. Yeah, for sure. And then, okay, so we're making some progress here throughout your career. So here we are. What's next? So what's next after that? You have your first child. I'm assuming not too long after that.
That's a story for a different podcast.
Yeah. We don't need to go into that. Yeah. No.
I did not know for 2 days that I actually became a father because there was a time you don't have electricity for 36 hours over there. There is no connection. There is no phone, so you have no clue. So when that happened, I went back for a break for 3 weeks, and I went back immediately to Africa to work. But then started going down. After that, I was like, okay, I have to find something else. So go back to LinkedIn, process again. I found this agency, Youth Elite Soccer, Yes Soccer, from Connecticut, that was dealing with the players coming from Europe, going to US. I just sent my CV, just for sending it. And after a few months, after a few weeks, I got an email back. We do a Skype job interview, and I got a job offer that I didn't have any clue what was about. It was soccer, and it was States.
Okay.
And it was Houston. So that was my only thing. So I quit over there. My assistant coach stays, and he actually has some success over there. I go back, and then after 3 weeks spending in Serbia, I go back to States. Started with the lowest level, recreational level. You know how it is here.
Yeah.
If you're not established name, if you're not somebody who had a career already as a coach, you have to prove yourself. Start slowly from recreational world, for the youth academy, competitive, elite level, and ending up where I'm here at the moment, the last 7 years in leadership position of one of the biggest club in the country. So that was the progress. Not a lot of coaching, but a lot of work in soccer. Definitely in the last 10 years now. It was actually 10 years last month that I'm here in the.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. So you in starting at the rec level, so kind of coming from, coaching at the high level in Serbia, you're in Benin, you've done a lot. How did that feel? Were you kind of frustrated that you had to start at that level in the States, or did you understand that you make a name for yourself over again and you were okay with that?
Well, and I know that everybody will say that when you become a father, when you become a parent, you have different priorities. That was my moment of that. Look, I don't care what I do. I'm there because of my family, because of our livelihood, not because of what I was, my career. So I didn't feel it like that. It was totally different world. You cannot even imagine going from Republic of Benin, for what I just talked about the poverty and those things, going into one of the nicest cities in the States, the Woodlands, where everything is like, everything has to be buttoned up. The people are smiling, they're happy. At least that's how it used to be. So that was the biggest change. The environment was the biggest change, and even the game was different. It took me a while to adapt. I remember even back in those days, the director of the club was asking me, "You don't speak." I said, "I have to observe. I'm not sure where. I know where I'm at, but it's a different thing, different environments." I was trying to learn my way, trying to build my way again with my work rate. I think, we need people to do this, to cover sessions, to cover games, to help assembling the goals, to help lining the fields. Yes, I did have my UFA license. Yes, I did coach national team players. I used to work for the Federation of Serbia. But it just wasn't my mind. My mind was, okay, I'm here. I have to prove myself. I have to go for immigration process to get my visa so I can bring my family here. That was my goal for that period. And luckily, it took me only 6 months to do that. So I am fortunate enough to be able to do it.
Yeah, and it's a completely different game, different style. Your first impressions of youth soccer over here, what did you notice? What was the biggest difference? That's the broad generalization. But is there anything that sticks out to your mind? And my follow-up question to that is, has that changed as you've been here as well?
Well, for a positive note, the opportunity for all saying was new for me because
Okay.
if you work in Europe over there, you want to play soccer, you are struggling, you're not huge potential, you're out, which again,
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. So that was the most positive thing I experienced here. On the negative side, now being 10 years here, we can talk a lot. Unfortunately, I do feel that US has the biggest potential in the world.
Okay.
Working in the youth system for 10 years in the States and experiencing the ECNL level, MLS next levels, watching the games and the kids, you know, diversity of the players in US from different origins, Brazilian, Argentinians. I'm talking about soccer countries. We there you have that here, U11, U12, U13. Something happens when they become U15, U16, where they start quitting the sport and again, I don't want to be the one who is saying that, but there is so many leagues at the moment in the state, and I don't feel that federation is having an oversight of everything as they could. So for me, that's it sucks for the US soccer. That's unfortunately, because the potential that I've seen in the U12 and below game, U13 and below game, I haven't seen that in Europe ever. Uh, those kinds of potential, the players from different oranges, the talent, the physical, even the physical characteristics, even for the young players, you can see they're dynamic, they're mobile, they are explosive, they have passion. The South American people, the Eastern European guys,
Yeah.
we are hungry. We live this game. So I feel that I have my own theory, which is again, I'll keep it to myself, and I feel the system can be a little bit adjusted, so it serves more the player that will
Okay.
essentially serve the US soccer. So that's how I see it. That's the biggest thing. Because you go to Serbia, you go to Italy, the federation is overseeing everything. There is no potential leagues, there is no 5,000 tournaments events. It's a league, it's one umbrella, and everything goes under
Mhm.
the umbrella, and then we keep an eye on everything. We make sure that every talent gets a chance, which is basically a saying now, Arsene Wenger and FIFA, as we all know.
And obviously, Serbia, Italy, European countries, the situation is a little bit different with the size and scale, of course. But still, at the same time, you have to make a good point, a valid point about player participation. And something happens. There's a drop off at that age 14, uh, and it needs to be more at the individual level. You're just kind of saying streamlining it would be your recommendation from the top down. What else? What else would be a good recommendation? Do we need to make the game more fun? Do we need to make the game more accessible? Do we need to? Are there other things at play too that are also? Uh,
Well, now we are getting to the topic. Uh, the resources that US has, I do not think that anybody has. The fields, the facilities, the access to data, and the access to software platforms. I do not see that. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe, of course, it's now everywhere, but 10 years ago, it was still here. Uh, what I would like to see, I would like to see that the development and the system is transferring to high school game.
Mhm.
I do not see that as an obstacle. I see that as an opportunity. There are things that I do not have a lot of insight in, so I cannot talk a lot about it. But I feel there is a gap, and there is a separation between the school and the schools and the youth sports organizations across the country, across the city states. Again, I do not know if that's going to change or not. But I do have a feeling where when you tell a kid when he's 15, you have to choose, or you're playing high school soccer or you're playing for the MLS Professional Academy. And when I was 14, 15, if you tell me to play in school in front of my friends, in front of my parents, in a phenomenal stadiums, where it's going to be about me,
Yeah.
there is a dilemma there. Okay, do I want to play for the MLS Professional Academy, or I want to do this, because you will never experience this again. And we all know how much that can benefit the player when he has that confidence and boost from his own environment. Again, uh, not undermining anybody. I mean,
Mhm.
I just have a feeling there is a separation between those two entities, and I again, that's one of the Somebody will be much more harsh on this, but I don't want to be harsh on the things that I do not know. I'm talking about. I just want to speak about the factual things, and give you some of my subjective opinion. But I do have a feeling that even now you look at the results. We were just chatting in the office a few days ago. You have so many different leagues, but you open up the website, you go at the results, and it's 5-0, 8-0, 7-0, 6-0, whatever league you go, whatever league you choose, because there is now like 10,000 leagues, if you ask me. There is no consistency, and if the best players are not playing against the best players and not competing in the best environment, you're not going to have a development, and nobody can. We can argue that, but nobody can prove it differently. So, and I think the US is missing that. I think that when you look at the MLS Academy going to play against the opponent, which is not MLS Academy, and the result is 7-0, and you have 3 of those weeks in a month. Okay, so how are you going to compensate that?
Is that really benefiting the players too, the top players at the MLS Academy? Yeah, or
no, then you look at the MLS. So many international players. Most of them are international players. Not a lot of US players playing here. Again, something that I think that I might have an opinion. Maybe I do not have all the facts, but I do believe there is a lot of space for improvements, a lot of opportunities. I wish and I hope that the World Cup will change that. We'll see. You never know. But maybe things are now. There is no question that the game is growing, but I also believe it's not everything. It's about the growth. You know how the mentality is now in business and the corporate world. We need to grow. Okay, you have to grow, but you have to have a quality control.
That is measured growth.
Measured growth, and again, a quality control. We can grow and then lower down our standards, and then you have 10,000 leagues instead of one. You grew. The financial side is getting better, but is that really the benefit that you want to have as a sport organization? It's a question mark over there, which I can answer, but I won't.
No, I think the reason I asked those questions and the reason I kind of leaned into the conversation a little bit more is because you do have an experience across the pond in Europe. You have been other places besides just the US. So I think it's refreshing to get your take on it as well, right? Because you hear a lot of this stuff, but typically the conversations happen in bubbles, right? So it's very good to hear your take on that. And thank you for that. My next question, because you mentioned data at some point in the conversation. So, we do have a lot of resources in this country too, and there's a lot we can do with the game. I know, it's not, this podcast isn't about SciSports. It is a SciSports podcast, but at the same time, I've seen some of the work you do with data. So explain that in your workflow at HTX right now, what you do with that, and how do you think data shapes our game here in 2025?
So, as in every business, data and analyzing data is one of the ways to go forward, correct? If you do not analyze what you have done earlier, there is no objective metrics that you can actually measure and your development or your progression. So that's how I see it. Just generalize it. When it comes to personally myself and our teams and here in our location in HTX, like the main focus is for the main usage of it is for the IDPs. When I say the IDPs, I think first of all, I think there's a different ways how you can use data, and I'm not the highest expert on it, so I'll just share a little bit of my things and how we do it. Looking at the player when they're U14, you want to start collecting data. You have now these automated cameras that record everything without you holding the phone or whatever you need to do. You import it in the software, and the software in 24 hours provides, I think it's at least 60 players' actions on an individual basis, also connected with the video. So when you have that in 10 games, 15 games, 20 games, there are several things that you can do. And then using those profiles to improve themselves, of course, and as a recruitment tool when it comes to, is it going to be a collegiate level or a pro or semi-pro, I don't know, but there will be a data of 2 to 3 years of you playing, of your actions, of your improvements, of your impact of the game. And even though I think that's a supplement, because the coach's eye is the number one and the decision maker, and I think has the most experience and most knowledge. But aligning those two, I think it will give a clear picture for the player where he wants to go. So IDPs in individual development plans are the main thing that I believe it's helping us. It's helping the players. Of course, there is a coach side of it. How we as a coach are using it, also for the individual players, but also for the teams. I do think that the biggest benefit is for the individual, for the players to create their own profiles, to have that data, to have a lot of metrics that are tangible, that are measurable, that can be really implemented when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to approaching the coaches, college coaches, or the agents, or whoever, and having something to support the call. Okay, I want your college, I want your club, I want you to be my agent because of this. This is the type of player I am, and there are specific metrics about it, and there is no, okay, I see that thing, you see that thing, the coach see other things. It's a fact. Here you go, use it, take advantage of it, and then you as a coach will decide, or an agent, or a sporting director, or a scout, what do you want to do with it. That's how I see it, and that's how we use it, and I can tell you it's really beneficial from that standpoint.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I think it started off by saying measured growth, so that's exactly what it is. And I also would say, we talked a little bit about player rate and players dropping off at a certain age. Also giving them direct feedback, tangible feedback, and to say, hey, look, this is how you're improving. That also would keep players engaged too over time. You're getting better, you're improving. And that's another way that we can keep more people playing soccer in this country at the youth level. All right, so we've talked about a lot of stuff here. And I guess we'll, at this point in time, we'll get to the trivia here in a second. But, you've been a professional player, you've been a coach, you've been a director, you're still a coach, you've done a whole lot. What would you say is your proudest moment overall on the pitch? It can be an exact memory you have, or just, maybe just talking about something that you're proud of.
So there is few things. My role now as director of the location and overseeing around 28 staff members and 1,000 players that we have in the club. It would be basically a player and staff development. When you see your player going to the next level, playing at a high level, that's a great thing that you have as a coach. When you see player playing at a low level and being genuinely happy about the game, and just a love for the game that's there, that makes you proud as a coach. Having your staff as a director, having your coaches, developing, progressing, enjoying their work. For me, that's number one thing that I'm the most proud of now in this specific role. As a coach, you see your team progressing, playing well, winning important games. But when you look for a specific moment, like as a coach when I was coaching in Serbia, we managed to not to get relegated with the U19s, where I was appointed in the middle of the season and kept the team above the relegation line. So that was one of the successes, if you want to measure it by that. But I would say it again. What is the success in a youth game? What is that? We have to know that we are preparing those players for what's next. When I don't mean like a next level higher league, I mean more like what's next in their lives. You have that. It's a buzzword, a holistic development. It's a buzzword, but it's an important word, because that's what you're actually doing. You have 0.001% of the players who actually play the game in youth that are becoming a professional athlete. So for me personally, I think looking at those players, having their individual success in the next phase of their lives, enjoying the game, having fun, in looking at the staff that are actually improving as a people, improving as a coach, and improving those players. For me, that's the thing for now. When I used to work in a pro environment, and I'm not sure if I'm going to work or not, we'll see. But then you have different goals, different results. As of now, the growth of where I'm at and the growth of the area, and we were the club of 250 players 7 years ago, now we're a club of 1,000 players. Sorry, allocation, we're a club of 9,000 players. Allocation of 1,000 players, that for me is also nice progress. I'm not celebrating as a success because I don't feel it needs that, but those are the things that you can actually measure. But the proudest moments are when you see those players saying thanking you after the games, thanking you after the season. Coaches also, parents from those players. So those are things that are making me proud in the last 7 to 8 years.
That's a great answer. I really like that. Yeah, you're coaching for the rest of their life. You're preparing them for life, right? Whether they play professional or not. I had a youth coach who used to say 4 and 40. That's how he looked at it. So even if you do play collegiate soccer, any other sport collegiately, it's 4 years and then 40 years of working a job most likely after that. So that's kind of the trade-off. So that's what you're preparing for in most cases.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the trivia question, because I in our preparation for this episode, you nailed a couple of the questions I asked you. I just kind of gave you a taste of what would be coming. Obviously, this trivia is paying homage to our Dutch heritage here at SciSports on the Heart of the Game podcast. And I have 5 trivia questions for you today. So we'll go one by one. And just so you know.
Let's see if you're going to embarrass me or I will actually know. But one thing that I can confirm, they only won 1 title. So a lot of things over there.
Well, our last guest actually went 5 for 5. So I don't know if my questions were too easy or if, so we'll see. Number 1. So question number 1. Which professional Dutch club plays its home matches at the Kuip? Is it A?
Feyenoord.
Okay. Yep. It's C. Feyenoord. 1 for 1. Question 2, and this might end up being rapid fire because I think this one is a little easy, so I'm not going to give it away. But which Dutch legend won his first Ballon d'Or in 1971? Is it A. Johan Cruyff? Is it B. Ruud Gullit? Is it C. Marco van Basten? Or is it D. Johan Neeskens?
A. Johan Cruyff.
2 for 2. Good start. Question. What's that?
It's enough for me though.
Yeah. Question number 3. Which manager led Ajax to the UEFA Champions League title in 1995? Ajax has 4 Champions League titles, but that's not the question. Who led them to their first Champions League title in 1995? Was it A. Rinus Michels, B. Guus Hiddink? Was it C. Louis van Gaal? Or D. Frank Rijkaard?
It was Louis van Gaal.
C. That's correct. 3 for 3. All right, pressure's on here with the last 2 questions. So you might be at the top of the leaderboard, tied with our last guest, Jack. So let's see. Question number 4. What nickname is commonly used for the Netherlands national team? Is it A, the Tulips? Is it B, Orange? You can also say Oranje. That's how you'd say in Dutch. Is it C, the Clogs? Or is it D, the Flying Dutchman?
I would say B, Oranje.
You are correct. 4 for 4.
Yeah. I wasn't sure on that, to be fair.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, you see, they're all dressed in orange, like the whole crowd. And yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah. And number 5, last but not least, PSV Eindhoven was originally founded as the works team for which company? Is it A, Philips? Is it B, Shell? Is it C, KLM? Or is it D, Unilever?
I would say Philips.
You're correct. 5 for 5. Great work. That's impressive.
Well, I know Philips because they have Philips on the jerseys, or they used to have. They don't have it now, but that was a guess. I wasn't sure. The last 2, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it is Philips. Yeah. Well, Radojica, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being the guest today on the Heart of the Game podcast.
Well, thank you for having me and for the invite. It was nice to talk about and even recall some of the things that I almost forgot. So thank you for the call. I really enjoyed it. So I wish you guys good luck as you move forward.
Thank you so much. And guys, if you enjoyed this episode of the Heart of the Game podcast, make sure to subscribe, hit like on YouTube. If you prefer to hear us in audio form, you can find us on Spotify, Amazon, really anywhere you get your pods. Search Heart of the Game podcast. This is Brian McDonough signing off. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, everyone.